This episode is special. We will understand the blood deeply, starting from its generation up to its function. Understanding the blood process. Blood consists of red cells, white cells, platelet cells, antibodies and others, within yellow watery liquid known as plasma. Man normal body contain 5.5 to 6 liters and woman 4 to 4.5 liters. Pint equals 0.473 liter, so around 12 and 9 pints contain man and woman respectively. Blood generated by bone marrow in lymphatic system as follow. A newborn cells are unspecialized stem cells which will divide to immature blood cells, whether they're red blood cells, white blood cells or platelets. Then again, they will be divided to mature cells of the type. The process starting from stem cells to complete functional blood cell requires 7 days. The white blood cells live from few hours to few days as body needs to fight infection. Usually as per sickness 5 to 21 days. The platelet life is about 10 days, where the red blood cells lives around 4 months. Lymphatic and blood system. The blood system is connected to lymphatic system in a way. At main heart artery and bone marrow veins. They intervene between each other when the bloodstream or body tissues need some help from the immune system. The immune system is the army who protect our body as guards, military, logistic commanders, military operations room, etc. The defense system is already having his guards distributed in bloodstream and can call for the call of duty. This system and starting from the lymphatic system, which in turn let the bones marrow produce the fighters. Lymphatic system, distributed like veins, artery, and it has 600 to 700 lymphatics nodes. The spleen is the defense base station, which contain the most amount of white blood cells. The defense system has 4 categories and the components are: the first category of defense is to protect the border and its gates. The first line is the skin barrier. The invader cannot enter the body through the skin if it not cut. The second important defense in this category is the saliva, which protect the gate of our inner body. The other organ in the second gate defense is in the backstage, is the stomach acid. The third defense and the fourth are the bitter earwax and the mucus of our nose, and there are others such womb for female. The second category is to protect our tissues directly by creating inflammation in affected area. The inflammation kills the microorganism until the area become fixed by the body logistic system or the builders, including the platelets. The more complicated category is the internal security, third category, which is the immune system. The last, fourth category, is our friends, good bacteria. Red blood cells carry oxygen from lungs to different body parts and cells as follow. The hemoglobin is the protein in red blood cell that gives them the color. Hemoglobin collects oxygen in the lungs and go with bloodstream to other body organs or tissue and release the oxygen there. Each hemoglobin can hold maximum 4 oxygen atoms. After releasing oxygen, the hemoglobin collect the carbon dioxide CO2 from receptor cells and go back in its cycle to the lungs, where it releases the CO2 as gas, to be exhausted out of body. The hemoglobin need iron atoms to help it to hold the oxygen atoms. Red blood cell life around 120 days. Average size 7.5 by 2 micrometers. Shape is like a lentil but concave in the center instead of convex. Red blood cell increase their number when needed with exercise and when changing in altitude. Red blood cell existence is in cardiovascular system. White blood cells' role is to fight against infections, whether it is bacteria, viruses, tumor, or any invader or abnormal cells, by eating it or produce antibodies to tie it up. Its life between 5 and 21 days. Size 10 to 15 micrometers. The white blood cells are 1 over 1,000 in quantity of red blood cells in human body in normal condition. White blood cells increase their number in infection, and its existence is in cardiovascular system and lymphatic system. Each white blood cells has usually 3 nucleus instead of 1 as in red blood cells. Also they have bristles to let it move around its streamline in blood. It can modify its shape to follow and swallow intruders, and some can enter a human cell itself. White blood cells have 6 types, one of them are a combination of 3 other types. The system is more complicated than which I want to describe here. I will divide the explanation into 2 parts. The first is a resume and give ideas about white blood cells and the immune system. The second part is with more details about each subtypes of white blood cells. Lymphocytes, B cells and T cells. B cells have 2 subtypes. B plasma, secretion of antibodies in blood, and B memory. The B cells fight invaders in blood. T cells have 3 subtypes, which they're T helper, T killer, natural killer, suppressor or cytotoxic, and T regulator. The T cells can fight inside human cells against invaders, pathogens, or cancered cells or abnormal cells. Monocytes move into a tissue and fight against bacteria, some types of fungi, and dead cells. Granulocytes is family of 3 types: neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Neutrophils, they attack and destroy bacteria and viruses. Eosinophils fight against many types of parasitic infections. Basophils intervene when allergic is found. Hereafter, we will understand the immune system and blood types or group. After understanding some bases, what is pathogen, antigen and antibody, trying to avoid the complicated description. After that we be able to understand the white blood cells and the immune system. Pathogen. The word is coming from Greek and it means passion generator, to describe germ infection, such bacterium, virus, fungus, protozoan, prion and viroid. But it means, in a way, generator of suffering or producer of disease. Antigen and antigen, antibody-generating agent, which lead to antibody generation, which fight against foreign bodies, such microbe, bacteria and virus. In general, human defense as well pathogen, microorganism has their own antigen, antibody, fight body other than their own body or other than their pals, friends. Antigen work as bayonet or spear defending upon its body cell, where the antibody work as a warrior or knight. Antigen is created by microorganism to defend for itself. There are many bayonet antigen types for each warrior or antibody type. Each antibody can hold more than one type and more than one antigen. Antibody can throw or stick the antigen to the foreign body or can hold the enemy his own antigen. Bayonet, and in this situation he tie up or cripple the pathogen microbe to help we blood cells to eat it. The antigen is a structure of molecules binds to invader microbe and destroy his defense of outer layer. Bacteria and virus also have their own antigen, which our body defends using our antibodies cell to attack the foreign antigen. Also, antigen binds specifically to an antibody of native antigen, a compatible specific antibody, this due to an adaptation in region and shape and other factors inside the antibody, and only antigens that match this shape will fit into them. They are cells in our blood serum, plasma shaped as a Y, may generated by white blood cells, attack the invaders and any foreign antigen. There are 5 types of antibody, they may have one or one in front and one in back or distributed all around the center. Quantity 5, and all members have the shape Y. The one antibody may take more than one antigen. There are 5 classes of antibodies, each having a different function. They are IgG, IgA, IgM, IgD, and IgE. Ig is the abbreviation for immunoglobulin, or antibody. IgG. The most common antibodies, they circulate in the blood and lymphatic system, bind the invader antigens and allow the white blood cells to eat the invaders with the antibodies already bound on. Also, it can cross the membrane of cells because of its size. Ig are present in saliva, mucus and tears. Also present in secretion of respiratory, digestive, urinary and reproduction system. IgM, the largest antibody present in the blood, is a group of 5 antibodies all around. Its work like IgG but cannot cross cells membrane due to its size. And this type produced first to fight intruders and at the final stage and for cleaning, the immune system produces the type IgG. IgD antibody. This type mostly exists on the surface of B cells, a type of white blood cells, to assist B cells in recognizing microorganic antigen. IgE exists in small amount in a liquid distributed in the body responsible for allergic reactions, such pollen, chemical product, smell or droplets. Where these antibodies bind to allergen substance, it stimulates a chemical substance called histamine. This chemical substance led the muscles to contract and the capillaries to dilate and expand, and a special serum secret, and its reaction will be as sneezing, runny nose, especially in wall painting, and sometimes swollen some tissues. The red blood cells have an average antibody quantity 40,000. Its range vary between 25,000 and 60,000. Distance separated around 55 nanometers as average. Lymphocytes, B cells and T cells. B cells generated inside and by bone marrows and mature, they then migrate to the respiratory tract, spleen, gut, germinal centers, in the medulla and subcapsular cords of the lymph nodes. Role is to fight and protect the body from the bacteria and virus that enters the bloodstream by attaching an antigen on the surface of a microbe, bacteria or virus, by their own generated antibodies. These antibodies act as the marker on the infected cell so that T cell readily identifies the infected cell and destroys it. B cells' lifespans is too short except the memory B cells. The memory B cells, to faster and easy recognize the invaders for the next time. B cells fight in blood plasma and lymph system outside human cells. B as well T cells have receptors of protein signal CD40 and CD4 respectively, which let him to be activated. B cells produce and secrete antibodies, protein chains, activating the immune system to destroy the pathogens. B cells can recognize the surface antigens of bacteria and viruses. A typical human B cell have 50,000 to 100,000 antibodies bound to its surface. Around 2 and 3 times less density on cell surface than red blood cells in Y antibodies. Because B cell has around twice the red blood cell diameter and its shape near to a sphere with some deformation. B cells have 2 subtypes. B plasma, secretion of antibodies in blood, and B memory. Here a real comparison between T cell size and HIV and HCV viruses. The antibody secreted by B cells are IgE, IgG. Main function is to fight against parasite. T cells, thymus, created by bone marrow, and they mature in the thymus, in the lower neck, in upper chest, behind breastbone, close to the neck vertebral, and tonsils, 2 small masses of lymphoid tissue in the throat, one on each side of the root of the tongue. T cells localize originally inside of lymph node. T cells' lifespans is long. T cells can engulf and destroy pathogens directly like fungi and virus. They fight defected body cells, transplanted organ, such tumor, cancer cells, and many of such dyed blood cells. Their role is to clean the body of any unusually or defective cells. T cells do not have antibodies on the surface as B cells have. T cells' fight is not based on previous memory as B cells, because they are direct killer, no need for memory. They eat and eliminate any cell out of law without any judgment. T cells can fight also unlike B cells but can go to the infected area and fight the invaders inside the human cells. The main types of T cells are cytotoxic T cells, or the killer or suppressor T helper, also direct killer, and T regulatory divide from mature T cell in the thymus gland. T cells can only recognize viral antigens outside the infected cells. T helper cell. Natural killer T cells can help the other defensor cells to eliminate some tumor cells. As well, they are direct killer, a type of T cells, or actually it is a T cell clone that provides help to other cells in the immune response by recognizing foreign antigens and secreting substances called cytokines that activate T by Th1. Also known as CD4+, which use the antigen protein CD4, and B cells by Th2. T helper cells fall into two main classes: those that activate other T cells to achieve cellular inflammatory responses, and those that drive B cells to produce antibodies in the humoral immune response. These two classes of response are generally incompatible with one another and require coordination by substances called cytokines to promote one response while dampening the other. The HIV virus attacks T helper cells, so no B and T cells activation. For that it is called by deficiency of immunity. T helper cells have CD4 markers, protein molecules, on the surface to promote T cells, and CD154 promotes B cell maturation and function by engaging CD40 on B cell's surface. CD4 molecules are used by the cells to communicate with each other. T helpers can kill directly and send information about the antigen of the intruder. Summary: as soon as any microorganism such bacteria, viruses or fungi attacks the body, T helper cells produce the chemicals which trigger the B cells for developing plasma cells and activate the T killer cells for targeting and killing cells that have been affected by the invaders. Antigen-presenting cells APCs. The cells that can engulf antigen and present fragments to T cells are called antigen-presenting cells APCs. Monocyte has a subtype called macrophages provide a first line of defense of the immune system. Life is between 3–8 hours, but when they move into a tissue, they become a large irregularly shaped cell. This can last for a long time to fight against bacteria, dead cells, some fungi types and other invaders. Macrophages are usually found in a resting state. They have the ability to engulf the pathogen and remove cell debris. They release biologically active proteins called cytokines and recruit other immune system cells to stop the infection from spreading. Macrophages have several different receptors on the surface that help them effectively identify and bind pathogens to promote phagocytosis and stimulate the release of cytokines which lead to tissue inflammation and activate the natural killer T killer cells. For comparison, macrophage diameter is 21 micrometers, where T or B cells is between 10 to 14 micrometers. Granulocyte are white blood cells with secretory granules in its cytoplasm. Is a family of 3 types: neutrophils, eosinophils and basophils. These types to be ready on fight field require 2 weeks, but it be shortened in case of emergency to fight bacterial infection. For each granulocyte cell released to the bloodstream, there are between 50 to 100 cells as reserve waiting in the marrow to enter the battlefield. The fight starts after 7 hours of infection detection in the body, and only the one half enter the battle. Their life is few hours in the bloodstream, where it become 4 to 5 days in body tissue. This type of fighters eats or capture the invader and throw it out of body. Neutrophils, or neutrocytes, are the most common granulocyte. They can attack and destroy bacteria and viruses. If the neutrophils level is below the minimum, this indicates that the person will have weak defense against invader, bacteria and virus. Eosinophils are involved in the fight against many types of parasitic infections and against the larvae of parasitic worms and other organisms. They are also involved in some allergic reactions. Basophils are the least common of the white blood cells and intervene when allergic is found by releasing of histamines, heparin, or other chemicals. Heparin is an anticoagulant. It prevents blood from clotting. Histamines are vasodilators that cause irritation and inflammation. Releasing these substances makes a pathogen, microorganism that cause disease, more permeable and allows for white blood cells and proteins to enter tissues to engage the pathogen. The irritation and inflammation in tissues affected by an allergen is part of the reaction seen in some forms of asthma, hives, and hay fever, and in its most serious form, anaphylactic shock. Platelets created for blood coagulation and for clots to stop bleeding. When they are coagulating, they create a tiny microscopic fiber to stop blood stream to go out of body. Size is 2 to 4 micrometers. Blood types or groups. The blood group depends on what red blood cells have as antigen type. Main human blood is grouped into 2 main group A, B, O, denoting antigen type of and B, and RHD, denoting the sign or RHD antigen status. The first has 4 types: A, B, AB, and O, with sign plus and minus or null denoting the second group, which is RHD status. Each letter refers to a kind of antigen. Blood types are inherited and represent contributions from both parents. Blood group systems. A complete blood type would describe a full set of 30 substances on the surface of red blood cells. And an individual's blood type is one of many possible combinations of blood group antigens. Across the 36 blood group systems, 308 different blood group antigens have been found. Red blood cell hold on its top surface antigens which can determine its blood group. Most red blood cell antigens are protein molecules found on the surface of red blood cells or antibodies, which may be created by white blood cell. Antigens are usually proteins and glycoproteins, peptides, amino acid chains, polysaccharides, chains of monosaccharides, simple sugars, and carbohydrates but lipids, and glycolipids, and nucleic acids become antigens only when combined with proteins and polysaccharides, and their existence is depending on blood group. There are two main types of antigen, called A and B, for each group has its name antigen, where the blood group AB has a combination of antigen A and antigen B, where O or null doesn't has antigen. If a person receives red blood cells with antigens not normally present in the system, the body will reject and attack the new red blood cells. The red blood cells has two main antibodies type A and B. The blood group A has antibodies type A, and blood B has antibodies type B, and group O have a combination of antibody type A and B, where group AB doesn't has antibodies. The one antibody may take two antigens. Rhesus blood group system. A substance may present in the red blood cells that causes the production of 50 antigens in the blood, and 5 are the most common, especially the antigen D. If exists symbolized by +, sign of blood, or Rh positive, and it bind to red blood cell, otherwise Rh negative, and the antigen D doesn't exist in the blood. Example: A negative doesn't has the antigen of type D of group rhesus, where A plus it has this antigen D. In other words, people whose blood contains the rhesus factor are rhesus positive, Rh plus, and those whose blood does not contain it are rhesus negative, Rh minus. Rhesus named so because of some defenses exist over other types where not have, and this coming from a mythical old king of Thrace. In Greek, east of Macedonia. Brief: the groups A, B, and O have antibodies, but AB group doesn't has. Blood group A, B, and AB have antigens, where the group O doesn't has antigen. How to differ or distinguish each blood group. All groups are coming from type O, which constitute with 2 galactose and 1 N-acetylglucosamine and 1 fucose. Molecules. Chemical names. The group A has in addition N-acetylgalactosamine. The group B and A has in addition galactose. The group AB has in addition both N-acetylgalactosamine and galactose. Conclusion. Group A has only the A antigen on red cells, and B antibody in the plasma. That would attack any foreign B antigen containing in red blood cells. Group B has only the B antigen on red cells, and A antibody in the plasma. That would attack any foreign A antigen containing in red blood cells. Group AB has both A and B antigens on red cells, but neither A nor B antibody in the plasma. So type AB can receive any ABO blood type. Group O has neither A nor B antigens on red cells, but both A and B antibodies are in the plasma. This means that they can be donated to a person with any ABO blood type and cannot take from any except O. This group may have more allergic from nature more than other types. Moreover, the blood with rich plus antigen can receive from plus and negative, where the minus it can only take from minus. Blood with positive sign cannot give the negative signed blood. The immune system will treat it as a foreign body, and their antibodies will fight the blood with positive sign because it has its own antigens, where the negative doesn't has antigen but only antibodies. This means parent have both positive signs will never give negative child. In reverse, there is no problem, because the Rhd+ can accept antigens and antibodies. The most common blood group are in order. The positive more probable in human than the negative. This is related to food types. In the total world average values, 94% Rh+, 38.67% for O+, 27.42% for A+, 22.02% for B+, and 5.88% for AB+, where 2.55% for O negative, 1.99% for A negative, 1.11% B negative, and 0.36% AB negative. The higher Rh+ percentages in Far East, where all blood negative group are rare. This cover the area from Japan, China, down to Koreas, Malaysia and Philippines. The higher Rh negative percentages in west of Europe and the areas where dwell it, such UK, Spain, in Brazil, Australia and New Zealand. The higher O+ percentages in Latin America or Southwest America, Chile, Ecuador and Peru. The higher A+ percentages in and around Mediterranean Sea, in order Armenia, Cyprus, Malta and exception as Norway. The higher B+ percentage south of Asia, India, Thailand and the far southeast of Asia. The higher AB+ percentages in the Far East. Animals have other blood groups, such dogs 4, cats 11 and cows 800 groups. Skin, mucus, saliva, ear gum, stomach acid and immune system. The immune system, from the Latin word immunize, meaning free or untouched, protects the body as guard to free the blood and lymph system from any foreign microorganism, enemy or invader, and try to let the system to be untouched. The immune system is exactly like a full government, which has its army, detectors, intelligence, military operations room, fighters distributed in battalions, each has its specialization, cleaners after the war, registers or registry office for information. This is a preface for next episode.